Well, welcome everyone who's been here yesterday, and welcome folks who are joining us this morning. We're going to start off with a session on local knowledge and climate change by Ian Mauro. Ian is listed as being from the University of Victoria, but he is a homegrown Manitoban. He's a postdoctoral fellow and filmmaker in environmental studies at the University of Victoria. He's also a community-based researcher working at the interface of the social and ecological sciences. His research focuses on how farmer and hunter knowledge contributions to global environmental sustainability, specifically in rural and Arctic regions. Currently, he is collaborating with Zacharias Canuck, internationally acclaimed Inuk filmmaker, on a multimedia film and internet research project related to Inuit knowledge and climate change, and he'll be speaking about that today. So please welcome Ian Mauro.
All right. Okay, good morning. Inuktitut, udlakut. Can you guys try it with me? Udlakut. Udlakut. Good morning, Inuktitut. Yeah, my name is Ian Mauro. As Krista said, I'm a Winnipegger, and a Winnipegger who's just returned home. I've been in the Arctic for the past 5 months, returned on Wednesday, and so I'm in the re-entry phase of coming to the south, cell phones, high heels, all of the things that kind of we take for granted down here I haven't seen in a long time. I hadn't been in a car in 5 months, and yeah, in a community where I've been walking everywhere. And so yeah, it's good to be home. It's also jarring to be home, and I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the work that I've been involved in up there. What you're seeing here on the screens is a picture that I took in 2008 in Pangnirtung, just in Cumberland Sound, and I'll show you a map of that in a second. And I'm an instructor on a University of Manitoba program that takes university students from across Canada up to the Canadian Arctic to live in Inuit communities, to learn about the culture, the environment, and the political history of these areas. And for 10 days of the month that we're up in Pang, we actually take students out on the land. And we hand over a university program to the elders, and the elders run a land-based field school and teach students about traditional living. I've been at the top of a mountaintop with a vegan student as an elder shot a caribou, and I was just thinking, how did I get here? You know, we offer some pretty neat opportunities, and this particular year was a watershed year. It was 30 above on the land in the Arctic, and you can see that ice melting away, that multi-year ice, that long-term ice that the elders talk about giving them life on the land is melting away. And in the middle you've got pitzik, which is char, drying char, and the country foods are drying quickly now. They're drying really quickly, and elders have to kind of accommodate for changes to their food and how the environment is affecting it. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that today. So here on the map, you see Nunavut. Nunavut is Canada's newest territory. It is the largest Aboriginal land claim in the world. And what is happening in Nunavut is very cool. Elders are very influential in the government system. There's still problems. They're still working out how to run a government based on traditional values, Inuit Kayume Tukangit, Inuit knowledge. But they're doing it, and they're doing something quite interesting. If you take a look at the dots, these are the communities that I've spent a fair amount of time in recently. I've just come from Igloolik, so I've been in Igloolik for the past 5 months with my family, working on a film and research project, and Pangnirtung is the community that I've been going to for about a decade. And it's a fabulous place, and fabulous people. Inuit have taught me so much, and I'm honored to be able to kind of help communicate some of the things that I've learned from them here today. And just to give a bit of context, as Krista has said, I've worked with farmers and hunters over the past number of years. I've done filmmaking with Steph McLaughlin. Steph isn't here today, but I cut my teeth in the Environmental Conservation Lab at the University of Manitoba, and I just wanted to give a shout out to Steph and all the people from MAFRA with the big grant that has come in to support community-based research around local and just food, because that is a very cool thing that is happening here, and I want to just congratulate everybody for the hard work that went to getting that kind of money together to rally more of these kind of activities. And so I worked with Percy Schmeiser on GMOs. David Suzuki, Troy Stozik, and I made a film about a talk that he did as a fundraiser for the Saskatchewan Organic Directorate. Seeds of Change is one of the films that I made with Jim Saunders and Steph McLaughlin. And moving away from farmer systems into hunter systems, Zacharias Kunuk and I, who's seen Atanajuat? A couple people? If you haven't seen it, you should. It was voted the best Canadian film of the decade by CTV and Maclean's in the past for the turn of the decade here, and it's won international awards all over the world. And Zach is an Inuk filmmaker who has done something that very few people have done, and that's getting a feature-length Aboriginal film out to the world and having people learn about Indigenous culture through film. And so what Zach and I have done is we've teamed up to document Inuit knowledge and climate change. And elders up north had been saying to me, Ian, things are changing. We teach the students about this. How come you're not doing more? And they put the task, they put the ball in my hands, and they said, you have to do more. You keep coming up here. You have a responsibility to us. You have a responsibility to our communities. And so that's kind of a heavy task, and I said, okay. And I started raising the funds to try and get a project happening. And at the same time, Zacharias was also interested in doing something, and we teamed up. And so for the past year, we've been traveling to the communities that I showed, interviewing elders. We interviewed 55 Inuit elders, hunters, women across Nunavut. And over the past 5 months, we've been translating all of those interviews from Inuktitut into English and editing a film. And that film is going to be released soon in 2010. And as we were working on that, the United Nations invited us to present some of our work at Copenhagen to bring that Indigenous voice to the world. And so I'm going to show a little news clip from the National that made its appearance in December.
Delegates in Copenhagen will get a look at Canada's Arctic tomorrow. A new film, Inuit Knowledge and Climate Change, is being shown during the summit. The National's Reg Sharon joins us with a sneak peek. Reg.
Well, Peter, it's December, and the Assiniboine River here in Winnipeg has only just frozen over. But if you're looking for even more dramatic examples of climate change, all you have to do is head 2,300 kilometers due north to Igloolik, Nunavut. In the high Arctic at this time of year, the sun doesn't even break the horizon.
We will try to do our best to answer your questions.
Warm inside, University of Victoria scientist Ian Mauro and Zacharias Kunuk have been using the internet to speak to the world, and to tell us what elders across the high Arctic are saying about climate change.
They talk about their world was the way it was and how it is different now.
It's a picture of melting glaciers, thinning or disappearing sea ice, even seals with burns to their skin. You see some skins with sores and thinner hides, Elder Dora Pudlick says. Skin conditions are burned or deteriorated. And while scientists say there's no question man-made pollution is contributing to climate change, the elders are also wondering if something much bigger is going on.
What we're hearing is that it might not be the full story.
They start saying our sun does not rise where it used to. It's something that we should be concerned about.
Elders they interviewed across the north all say the same thing. Their sky has changed.
They make money.
The sun seems higher than in years gone past, says Elder Joanna C. Carpick of Pengnerton. The heat of the sun gets hotter, sooner. The sun, the stars, and the moon are all changing, affecting the temperature of the sea, even the way the wind blows. Inuki Adami of Iqaluit says he wonders if his world has shifted or tilted north.
It's quite fascinating to see the links between, elders on the land, and I've literally been emailing with NASA scientists about the observations that Inuit have around the changes to the sun, the stars, and the position of the Earth on its axis.
Part of the film will be unveiled tomorrow in Copenhagen, much of it presented by one of the most recognized Arctic climate change activists, Nobel nominee Silawat Kuchye.
Inuit have reached out to warn the world of the effects of environmental change, to shift the world's thinking to human impacts, to human rights.
This is a place to commit.
And the irony of thousands of people jetting from around the world to attend the environmental gathering in Copenhagen isn't lost on these filmmakers, who decided to stay in Iqaluit.
We don't need to travel there and burn more fossil fuels. We're sharing our information digitally around the world.
And Peter, all day tomorrow on the Asuma TV website, people will be able to watch films from the Copenhagen Festival and participate in an interactive discussion on climate change.
All right, Reg. Thanks very much. Reg Sharon reporting to us tonight from Winnipeg.
So, that went to air. We were very excited about it. And we received numerous emails from scientists saying that it's great that you're talking to elders. It's important that you're talking to Aboriginal people. But if you continue to say that the Earth has tilted on its axis and that's causing climate change, you will have no credibility. And we had an astronomer from the National Research Council email this to us. And it was kind of an interesting thing. We hadn't totally worked out what was going on. This is the first time anywhere in the world that an Inuk man, Zacharias, has teamed up with a scientist, me. I was the only Southerner or Kadunat in the research team. It was a full Inuit crew, and we went into people's homes and we talked to them. And they were asked questions for the first time about environmental change in their own language. They had had people come up there before, lots of Kalyasakti researchers, coming up, asking questions, drilling questions through a translator, asking questions that Kadlunat are interested in, not coming from an Indigenous point of view. And the same research studies with Inuit have been churned out and churned out and churned out. And this is the first time that Indigenous people in the Arctic have been asked in their own language about climate change. And when we started to get into that level of detail, the technical language around Inuktitut, which is not spoken that much anymore, technical language in Inuktitut about environmental change. It's almost like the equivalent of Old English. It's like reading Shakespeare. And these people were telling us what was happening. And Zacharias and I, in the beginning of that clip, you saw me say, we'll answer your questions. We were doing live broadcasts through the internet. We had a satellite dish hooked up to the office. People were Skyping in, and we were going live to our website, editing the film, and people were calling us, and it was interactive. And through technology and traditional knowledge and science and the merger of all these, we actually came up with a fairly interesting discovery. And hearing about the Earth tilting, all these elders all across Nunavut, amazing. Independently, they've concluded the Earth is tilted. And the scientists say that's impossible. And so we had an elder advisor. His name is Augustine Takaugak. And he sat with us every day while we edited our film. And we got feedback from Augustine about what was happening. If we didn't understand a concept in Inuktitut, we would ask him. And when we got to tilting of the Earth, we said, Augustine, what's happening, man? How is this happening? What are you seeing? And you can see on the left, in 1957, Augustine was 13 years old, and he was born on the land. Within a human generation, people have gone from igluvigak, or igloos, and sod houses into modern homes in the Arctic. These are traditional people who still understand the land in a way that I have trouble fathoming, but I'm trying to appreciate. And Augustine said, when we were back on the camp in 1957, the sun used to rise on January 12th over here. And now, I'm 65 years old, and in 2009, the sun rises over here. And you have to remember that in the Arctic, there's periods of 24-hour darkness. And so when the sun comes up, there's this whole ceremony around this. The sun comes up and people take out their traditional drums, and praying is not the right terminology, but they are connected to what is happening. And there's the return of the sun ceremony. People are watching this for their whole lifetime. And Augustine says it used to come up over here, and now it comes up over here. And I'm thinking, okay, that sounds like a tilt. That sounds pretty big. And we went to a map, and we did it on a map. And then you can see the red line. It shifted 19 kilometers in 52 years. The sun has moved across the sky 19 kilometers, and it's slowly getting bigger as that happens. And it's a 44-degree shift in his perception of the sun. And sure enough, on January 12th, when we were up there, the sun came up. And we were scratching our heads going, how is this possible? And as a scientist, I went to the scientific literature, and there was nothing published on this. Absolutely nothing. And so we started digging in. And this slide is called Refraction and Spearfishing. Merging the worlds together. Refraction, I'm sure you're familiar with. If you look through a prism and the light bends, it refracts. Well, here you have the Earth on its axis, tilted, that's natural. When the Earth is going around the sun and it's pointing away from the sun, that's why you get 24-hour darkness. And when it comes back in, the top of the Earth, the Arctic, is facing the sun, and that's why you get 24-hour daylight in the summer. And if you look here, the actual sun's rays are the lower image. But when the sun's rays hit the atmosphere, there's a natural refraction that takes place. And the sun appears higher in the sky. And that's a natural phenomenon. What's happening with climate change is the atmosphere is getting warmer. And as the atmosphere warms, the density of the molecules expand. It's like in summertime, your car tire gets a little bit more expanded because of the heat of the molecules, the kinetic energy of the molecules bouncing off each other. In the Arctic, the blue in the picture there, the atmosphere is very cold. And the molecules of the atmosphere are contracted. Like a car tire in winter, your car tire gets flat because the molecules are pulling tighter together. And what's happening is there's an inversion layer between the hot upper atmosphere, which is coming from the south. The winds have changed because of climate change. When you get hot and cold air smashing into each other, we know you get thunderstorms. They're starting to see those for the first time ever in the Arctic now. But you also get changes in the wind patterns, and the elders are talking about it. They know the wind has changed its direction, and the wind is now coming from the south. Hot air is coming up there from the south. And as that's happening, the hot air, we know hot air rises, it's going up above, and you have cold air on the surface. And at the interface between the two, you have this inversion layer. And this inversion layer further refracts the light. It further bends the light. We got 5 minutes? Okay. And what's happening is the sun is actually moving higher in the sky because of this hot and cold air mixing. And the sun has appeared to change its position in the sky. And the closest we could get to this with the elders that we've been working with is spearfishing. Translating refraction into inuktitut does not exist. But the concept of spearfishing, the idea that the fish does not appear where it actually is, and there's a technique called kaperangayuk, where you account for refraction, and you don't aim at the fish, you aim at a different position because you know that when you're spearing into water, the refraction of the light is a different spot where you need to actually aim. And so this informed the basis of our film, Kaperangayuk, and I'm going to show you what we have been shooting in the Arctic on plain HD cameras. This is a straight high-definition camera videotaping the return of the sun in Igloolik this year. And you have never seen this before. I guarantee it. watch the sun. Seeing is a mirage. The hot and cold air mixing is bending our optical pathway to the sun, and it's splitting it in half. So that's shot on a standard HD camera, looking at the sun. And we're talking to elders and they're saying, our earth is tilted, our world has changed. And what's happening, it's an optical shift. Their visual world has been altered by climate change. The sun, the moon, and the stars are no longer in their proper positions in the Arctic because of a warming atmosphere. And this is a people who are dependent on the land for travel, for life, for food. And amazingly, Shirk wrote this up. This has never been documented before. This is the main research agency in Canada, and that's on their front main page right now because it's never been documented, and it's by going to elders that we've actually figured this out. And people are having to reimagine their world, reimagine the Arctic atmosphere or Arctic environment, and it's amazing. The sun, the moon, and stars are out of position, and the elders are saying, that's cool, we're figuring it out. I kid you not. There's a positive attitude around this, and there isn't that fear-based dialogue that we have in the South around climate change, even though Inuit are on the front lines of this issue. And they hear Al Gore talk about climate change, and they're like, that's fear-mongering. We have to get past that. Fear builds paralysis. It builds inaction. And they're saying, we can do this. And on the bottom left there is a tongue drift. The tongue drift forms due to the dominant north wind, and they've changed their position. The tongue drift has actually shifted, and when elders are on the land, they take into account the shift in the tongue drift, and they approach it differently to get to a position that they need to move to on the land. And new species are moving up there, and they're figuring this out, and they're confident in their ability to adjust because they have knowledge of the land, because they are connected to the land. And this land-based food system, they live on it every single day. They know their animals. And right now, contamination from the southern environment is coming up there. There's pesticides from agriculture, from industrial pollutants that are making their way up north, coming up on the dominant winds, getting in the food. The south is contaminating the north. And Inuit breast milk is 5 times higher in PCBs than anywhere in the world. Climate change is changing the dominant winds. Pollution is getting up there. Their visual world has changed. And we need to reimagine agriculture to help people in the Arctic. We have pesticides, we have GMOs, we have environmental health catastrophes, and a lot of it has to do with the way we produce food in the south. Energy-intensive agriculture, climate change. Our industrial model isn't working, and you all know this. That's why you're here. And we, as a group, are reimagining agriculture ourselves. That's what this is about. That's what this meeting is about. Respect for seed, animals, land, and community is what we need to move forward in the world. And we need a farming system that is built on farmer knowledge as an input. We can get off the fuels, we can get off the pesticides if we have knowledgeable farmers. And that's what this is about. There's hunters here too, but when we're talking about agriculture, it's about replacing external inputs with information and knowledge and growing that confidence to navigate change. Climate change is going to hit everybody. It's going to hit here next. It's It's going to move slowly further south. The Arctic is the hot spot now, but we're all going to get hit. And it's about having that knowledge in our minds to adapt. And I think that that's what this gathering is about, and I applaud you all for trying to navigate that change. And local knowledge and sustainable food systems, we have to share that information to get the challenges and opportunities figured out. And resisting the domination, kicking those corporations' asses for all the things that they've done. When I hear about people up north and their breast milk being contaminated and my family members getting PCBs from Monsanto in their bodies, our bodies, everybody, we have to fight that. But we also have to celebrate. We can't get taken down by our fear. We have to say there's a time and a place to put that aside and celebrate our victories. And that's what this is about. We're here to celebrate and celebrate those future generations. Thank you.